In this video, I'm going to tell you about the mistakes that I have made as a beginner AI agency owner. So let's talk about this. If you're a beginner, maybe you haven't gotten your first client yet, or maybe you did get the client and you're struggling now, this is the video for you. So let's do it. All right, so let's talk about the first mistake, which is right here. Pricing. Pricing is very important, guys. So let's talk about this. For full context, by the way, I have one client that I had for my AI agency. So I'm not doing crazy numbers. I'm not doing 10K a month. I'm just a beginner. So if you're in the same situation as me, a beginner, maybe you can learn from my mistakes. So I think you should charge at least $1,500 for any kind of AI service that you're doing. Now, you guys want to guess what I charged my first client? Guess what? I really put a low number. I charged $250 for my first client for an AI voice agent. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why this is a mistake, but the first one that comes to mind is the fact that if you're charging such a low price, $250, you're not going to have enough funds to actually be able to outsource your service. And you absolutely should be outsourcing the service because that's the only way to scale. You need employees. You need people that can do the work for you, the actual implementation, while you focus on the business side of things, which is getting more clients. Now, I know you probably might be judging me like, why would you charge $250? That's a joke. The reason I did it was because I really wanted to get the experience. I really wanted to get a yes. So if you haven't seen my other video where I talk about how I got my first client, basically what I did was I ran Facebook ads. And obviously, ads cost money. So my thinking was like, okay, I just want to get my first client as soon as possible so I can get experience, so I can make this money that I'm spending actually be worthwhile. Now, I know it's kind of messed up thinking because I charge so low, but I will admit that getting that experience from this first client has been massively valuable. One, because it increased my confidence and made me believe that, oh, this is actually possible. It's possible to get somebody to actually pay for your service over the internet. So that belief is really invaluable for me. However, going forward, I absolutely will not charge anything less than $1,500 because I need to have enough room to actually outsource and to pay somebody to implement the service for me. And by the way, let's talk about what should the margins be for an AI agency. So if you're selling a voice agent, what I'm thinking is if we do this price of $1,500, I'm thinking you could do maybe something like $300 for the implementation. So you pay somebody off of Upwork $300 to implement. Just put imp right there, implementation. And then obviously you keep $1,200. And now that money, you can reinvest that into running ads so you can get more clients. And if you do these numbers, that gives you about a 70% profit margin. So that's what I'm aiming for my next client. All right, now let's talk about the second mistake I made, which was not defining the scope well enough. So let's talk about scope. So first off, what does scope mean? Scope is where you define what you're actually going to be doing as part of your offer. And the reason why scope is so important is because you're basically defining the limits, the borders of what exactly it is you do. So for example, if you just sell AI voice agents, that's your scope. You don't do anything besides that. If somebody asks you, hey, do you do AI automation? You say, no, I only do AI voice agents. So I can tell you from my experience, on one of the initial calls I had with my client, they mentioned to me a problem that they were having with their CRM. And they explained it to me, and I realized that I actually know how to solve that problem because I have a lot of experience with N8N and building automations. So I realized, hey, I can actually fix this problem for my client. And when they asked me if that's something I could do, I said, yeah, I can do that. That was a huge mistake because even though I was able to deliver on my promise of saying that I could actually solve that problem for them, it's a huge mistake because it's going out of the scope. I want to be an AI voice agency, right? And I want to do nothing else besides this. The reason why is because I want to have a simple business because simple scales, okay? That's a super important phrase that we all need to remember, which is simple scales, okay? Because if something's simple, you can just multiply it over and over again. And the other thing is that if you stick to one offer only, what happens is that you start to get very good at it because you do it over and over again and you learn what it is that is important and what's not important. But if you change your offer every single time, or if you add more and more to your offer, it gets more complex and you never actually get the opportunity to optimize because you have to learn something new every single time. And I can tell you personally, this is a problem that I have a lot just because my tendency is that I like to solve problems. I like to learn how things work, right? But that tendency is very harmful in business, because being an entrepreneur is really a lot more about organizing people and finding the right person that can have the solution and connecting them with the person that has the problem. That's your job as an entrepreneur, is to connect the problem solvers with the people who need the solution. You're the intermediary. You can't actually really get down into the weeds, because if you do, you're never going to be able to get more clients, because actually doing the service delivery is not the thing that grows the business. Getting more clients, prospecting, doing outreach, running ads, making content, that is what grows the business. As an entrepreneur, I think really your main job is to be a marketer, to get people's attention, to find people who have problems and connect them with the solution. So that's something that I need to work on a lot, but I've learned my lesson now and I know exactly what I have to do for my next clients. All right, guys, last mistake that I'm going to share with you is a very simple one, very small, but it's called account ownership. So the idea here is that you want your clients to actually own the accounts when you're building an AI voice agent. So for example, let's say you're doing it in retail AI. You don't want to have your own retail AI account and build the whole voice agent there. Rather, you want your client to make their own account and then have them create a workspace that they share with you where you can log in and actually edit the voice agent. Now, there's a couple of reasons why you want to do it this way. First one is simply because it makes the client feel better, because they actually can see what's being built and they also have ownership of it. So that's the first reason. But the second reason, and really this is the more important one, is that it allows you to exit easily. Basically, if you are building the voice agent in your own account, then what's going to happen is that sometimes something will break, or maybe your client wants a little tweak. The only way for the issue to get fixed is for them to contact you and you fix it, or you hire somebody to fix it. That is not a good position for you to be in, because now you have to worry about getting contacted by your clients. Rather, what you want to do is you want to empower the client to be able to fix the problem themselves. That way, you deliver your service, you build it out for them, and then you can end the relationship with your client and move on to the next one. You don't want to be in this situation where they're contacting you constantly for these little fixes. And if you do want to be in that position, you want to do it in a way that you are getting paid a monthly retainer for actually doing the maintenance. And even then, again, you don't want to have the account under your ownership, because it just adds to your operational complexity. That's just one more thing that you have to manage. It's a lot easier to make sure that they are the owner of the account, and that way you have less things to manage and worry about. So those were the 3 big mistakes I've made recently as an AI agency owner. And really the point of this video is for me to reflect and to make sure I don't repeat these mistakes, and also realize that making mistakes is part of the process, and this is how we learn, this is how we get better. So hopefully you found this video valuable. If you want to learn more about my journey, check out this video I made where I talk about how I got my first client.